Happy New Year, and welcome to COVID quarantine. That's right, I've got COVID and I'm on quarantine. Hopefully I don't die. When I come off of quarantine, I'm planning on going on a hunting trip. Um, I'm going to go hunt the Northwoods in the snow with a bunch of guys and see how we can do now that we got snow on the ground. For now, I was digging through some old footage and I found some footage of Scott Shawl on a bear hunt in Ontario, Canada. Scott was with the beast from the very beginning. Last year he got cancer and it got him pretty quick, and he died in 2021. Good riddance to that year anyways. On to 2022. That year was full of death and sadness. But I think this is a fun hunt. Kind of an odd time of the year to play a bear hunt, but better now than never, right? So let's sit back and watch Scott hunt black bears in Ontario, Canada on a do-it-yourself hunt. It always amazes me how in Canada and in remote areas of bear hunting, the bears are so much easier coming into baits than they are here in the States, like in Wisconsin and Minnesota, especially on those do-it-yourself hunts. Maybe it's the pressure, maybe it's the lack of food and how hungry they are. Maybe it's a combination, probably likely it's a combination of the two. But it sure is a different kind of hunt when you get up into remote areas of Ontario where there's not a lot of hunting pressure. Scott was able to hunt Ontario on a do-it-yourself hunt because he owned property in Ontario. If you own a small section of property, you can buy permits to hunt bear in Canada. At least at the time of this filming. I don't know for sure if that's still the case. But where everybody else from the United States would have to hire an outfitter or get a tag through an outfitter, he was able to buy them over the counter because he owned property there.
Okay, I made it. Took me about half a day to get up here, but it's worth it. I'm going to set up a bear bait today. Haven't put any bait out here this year, so I thought I'd go over some of the stuff that I'm going to take back with me to get my stand set up. Some of the things, I'm going into a big swamp with some big beaver ponds, and there's a lot of bear back there, but some of the things that you're going to want to take with you if you do something like that is, I like to have a bug out suit, and I've got a hat that goes over if I need it. Obviously a lot of bug spray. Can get pretty bad back there. A couple of compasses so I don't get lost. This is the only road in this area. You've got to be able to make it out to where you're going in from. If it go off in any other direction, you know, the next stop is about the North Pole, so it's really important that you can make it back either with your compasses or with your GPS or with both, and I usually take both with me. Going back into the swamp, I always take a big machete with me in case I need to clear a trail. Saw some limbs if I need to clear something out because I've got a shot to the bait. I've got a limb saw that I take with me for the bait itself, to scent up the area originally to get the bears coming in. I've got some vanilla extract and water in a spray bottle that I sprayed the trees and vegetation with. I've got a bottle of liquid smoke that I like to put on the bark of a tree. And the other thing that I really like to use to get the bears to come in is I take fresh apples and I scrape them up and down on the trees on the bark around the bait. That scent from the apple stays for a long time even if it rains, and I've had overnight responses from black bear to that apple scent with no other scent at all. Just scraping the trees with apples. The next day I've got 100 pounds of bait gone. So that can work really well for you. I brought a bucket of cooking oil that I used. just saved from home. Instead of throwing it out, I put it in here. I'm going to surround the bait with that, let the bears get it on their paws and make scent trails spoken out from my pile. Other bears hit that trail, turn and come in, find the pile, get more bears on it in a hurry. I'm expecting this particular place that I'm hunting, I shouldn't have more than 3 or 4 days and have at least one, if not several, bears on this bait. Got my sled. I use my sled to pull my bait back. Can also use it to pull the bear out if I need to. You really can't get a quad runner back to where I'm going. It's just too thick and too wet, and there's not enough room to get a quad runner through it. I've got a bin that you can get at your local superstore. They only cost a few dollars. They don't cost that much. It's got a lid, and I'll show you how I'm going to set that up once I'm at my bear stand. It's got a handle on one end, and I'll also explain how that comes into play. All along these woods roads, this is really the only road in this area, we've got wild raspberries all along the sides of the road. Raspberries aren't the only berry they're really keying in on right now. There's a lot of other stuff that's growing right here right now as well. So it's a bountiful time for the bear. And I don't have a lot of hunting pressure in this area, and the bears take advantage of that. They come out to these roads, to this road in particular, walk up and down the road and eat berries, especially the last hour of daylight. Last year I jumped 5 different black bear just driving down this road in different areas, eating the berries in that last hour of daylight. Moose track. The 2 heavy sugar maples are where I'm going to put my stand up. Those 2 big trunks will really help break up my background. I've got white cedars behind them and some fir trees. So when I put my stand up there, I'll really have some good cover to hide in. I hauled the tote back here. I'm getting ready to set it up. Taking a look inside. We've got multiple grains. There's some molasses, breads, pastries. I haven't put a Twinkie in there for good measure. There's some cookies in there. All kinds of stuff that the bear like. Thought I'd talk about why I selected this stand site. Right behind me here there's a large swamp and a series of beaver ponds, and right now I'm just up onto the top of a small ridge, and anytime that I see beaver ponds, swamp, I'm thinking black bear. So I came in here and did some scouting, and I found some bear droppings, bear tracks, moose tracks too, obviously. I found a couple of scratch trees, so I know it's a good area for black bear. So again, to find it initially, I looked on an aerial and on a topo, and I saw beaver ponds and I saw a swamp. I came in, I verified it. I've got tracks, I've got droppings, I've got scratch trees. It's a good area for bear. Why I picked this exact spot is because the bears will approach the bait from their denning area, which typically is the swamp behind me, and I'm playing the wind. My stand's over here. The younger bears will pretty much come straight in. The older bears, if they've had any hunting pressure on them, which the bears in this area don't have a lot of pressure, will swing downwind. They'll want to scent check first, make sure everything's okay. So they'll swing prevailing downwind, step up onto this ridge, and we're on the edge of it right now. Right behind me, the ridge drops off into the swamp. They'll nose up onto the ridge, and once they're on the ridge top, they can smell and make sure that everything's okay. And with the prevailing wind, my wind's going just off of the ridge, away from their approach. They'll nose quartering into the wind and come into the bait. My scent from my stand behind me, I've got a blowdown area straight downwind that's really thick. They don't want to go through it. And behind that, I've got a ravine and a draw. So if they did really want to swing way, way down there, they would still have to go through this big blowdown area. They'd have to go through a ravine and a draw, and it's a lot of work for them to do that. Typically they'll come up onto this ridge top, scent check, the wind's kind of angling at them and quartering at them. They'll feel safe, and the big bear will come in and approach the bait. The young bears come straight in. And the first thing I'll be sitting there in my stand, and I'm going to see a black head all of a sudden poking over the ridge top right behind me here and looking up towards the bait, sniffing around, smelling, making sure that everything's okay. But that's why I picked this site. A lot of bear sign here. I've got a barrier prevailing downwind to help block the big bears, and yet the big bears can come up onto this ridge, this edge that runs this way along the front here. They can kind of quarter into the wind, they feel safe, they come in and hit the bait. Alright, now this is some hunting beast material. I'm just trying to finish up my bait here. I haven't even put the cooking oil around the bait yet or sprayed the trees, and I have a very big animal within 70 yards of me right now. How cool is that? And I'm in the middle of nowhere. Alright, so here's my finished bin setup. The lid is on, but it's ajar. I don't have it snapped down. I don't want them to rip it to shreds when the bears get here and start eating it. So the lid is ajar. The scents are all coming out of the bait. I drilled some holes in the top of the lid that I've got binder twine through, tied to the tree. And I've got the handle tied to the tree pretty hard. They might bust up that lid, but that bin is probably still going to be here upside down. And of course these logs will be blown right out of here. So that's the setup. We're going to get the grease down, the cooking oil down. We're going to get the vanilla sprayed onto the trees. And of course my secret weapon, I'm going to scrape those apples up on the bark around the trees. That really gets them in, but from the sounds of it, I might not have to wait too long to get a bear in on this bait. We're back. We're going to go check our bear stand. We got our bait out last week and had some promising bear sign. In fact, we had one crash up on us downwind while I was putting the bait out. I'm here by myself just like last week. No help, completely do it yourself. And we're going to head back and with the camera and some bait, and hopefully the stand has been hit and hit hard. But when I brought bait back last week, for the first time this year, I had a bear come crashing up downwind of me here at the stand. I didn't actually get a visual on him, but he was within 60 yards of me. And it was a bear. Fortunately, I was done with the setup, and I let him have the sight, and I backed out. It's a week later, and found some bear droppings right out by where I park, which is a great sign. Fresh bear droppings, full of berry seeds. Wow, looks like a bomb went off. And the bears ripped that heavy-duty plastic handle off of that tote. and I'm lucky they didn't run off with it. And last week when I set this bait up, and that bear came crashing in downwind, down the ridge line, little ridge line, just out of my sight. I kind of had a feeling that it wouldn't be long before he was on the bait. And I'm ringing the dinner bell here today. Looks like we've got a pretty strong entry trail that goes right over the ridge and down into the swamp. One other thing that I notice here at the bait is that on the prevailing downwind side, the trail's being used by the bears. The leaves are all scuffed up. I'm sure there's some bear tracks over here. And that's probably our bigger bears swinging downwind. They're coming out of the swamp and the beaver ponds up onto the little ridge here, and they swing downwind, prevailing downwind of the bait. They scent check it and then approach if they think it's safe, and they come in. Now my stand in those two really big sugar maples with a good backdrop cover is more than quartering off of that trail. So typically on their approach, my wind will be taken just off of their approach line with a prevailing wind. And I've got a large blowdown area right behind my stand that drops off into a draw and a gully. Barriers to bear movement. Now that's not going to stop them. They can go through it if they want to, but they got to put in a lot of extra work. We had whole grains, breads, candies, bagels, donuts. A lot of variety for the bear. All kinds of cookies, pastries, pie filling. As you can see, they've been enjoying it. There's a couple of big dropping piles. Wow. First bear came in. The second bear came in and chased him off. And then this guy showed up and chased the second bear off. He went about 25-30 yards from the shot. He's laying right over here. Today's the last day that I had to hunt. Season was over today, so I brought the rifle. This has been a great stand. I've had somewhere in the area of at least 10 different bears come into this bait in this stand this year. We've had a lot bigger bears come in than this one, but he looks like a pretty nice bear, so let's go take a look. Okay, here's our bear. Put a lot of work in on this stand to get this guy this year. Had a lot of bears come in, got quite a few of them on tape. But finding an area like this is really what made it successful. Beaver ponds, a swamp, a lot of bear sign. Had as many as 7 different bears come in one evening hunt. When I was bow hunting and didn't get a shot on any of the really big boars with my bow, and things slowed down after I get out of my stand that night. There's a lot of bears watching me, 6 different bears in fact, and that pretty much shut this stand down in this bait. Took a couple of weeks for it to pick back up again. We had 3 bears come in this afternoon. This guy chased away the other 2. He's not a monster, but great bear. It was a great hunt. So picking out the right spot, setting up the stand, playing the wind, watching for their approach. These guys can just disappear out of nowhere. 1 minute you're looking in one direction, and the next, here he is. You didn't even hear him come in. Nice bear.